the relationship has improved tremendously. And I must commend the current Cabinet Secretary, Prof. Kaimenyi. When Prof. Kaimenyi came on board, we were able to meet. We were able to agree on, we had about 45 contentious issues. We agreed on 42 of them, even in line with the Supreme Court ruling. And actually, Professor was at the point of handing over the functions the way it's supposed to be done in accordance with the law, only for Omtata and others to go to court to get a court order to stop the Cabinet Secretary from handing over the functions to the Commission. But I can tell you, since with Professor Kaimenyi, we are doing very well, we are working very well together. We are waiting again for the issues of the court order. We are now waiting once again for the outcome of the court case. You can imagine. But we are working very well together right now. And we are moving forward. We are very clear on what we need to do. We are very clear on everybody's mandate. And also the coming in place of the Land Act Amendment 2016. Mm-hmm. It has also gone a long way in solving that issue. So we just wish the courts would leave us alone to do our work. We know what needs to be done, and we're working very well together.
So the issue of state interference in the mandate of the National Land Commission? Madam PS, yes.
Thank you very much. I wouldn't say there is any state interference in the mandate of the National Land Commission. The mandate is spelled out in the laws, and especially now with the conclusion of both the Supreme Court and the amendments in the land laws, there is a lot of clarity right now. And on the same issue, we have both formal and informal engagements with the National Land Commission. Now we have structured meetings. We have launched the National Land Information Management System together as the two ministries. We are working together on the public schools. We are working together in the titling processes. We are also participating in a number of their reviews of dispositions and grants. All in all, it's a much happier environment, and also seeking clarity of the steps that members of the public really want to know.
So all is looking rosy here between the two. Wanda, is this something that you agree with from the sort of outside looking in? Is this the same experience for you?
Well, when there were problems, we cited three sources of the problems. Mm-hmm. The first one was legal, where there was no clarity and mandates were shared and there were overlaps in the allocation of mandates. So the Land Amendments Act 2016 has resolved much of that. In fact, the issues we addressed on the legal side have been resolved, and we are happy. So where there were functions where the Commission was given half the job and the ministry half the job, now the mandate sits with one institution, and it will be known how to seek accountability from that institution. The other issue was administrative, the matter of staffing and the matter of assets and how they were shared. So that it is only the institutions themselves who can say whether they have shared the assets and the whatever. From outside, we may not say that so much. And the other one was relational. Yeah. I mean, some working chemistry between the officers. And it is them who can say, because we, from outside, we were saying we know one government. We want to be holding government accountable together. We don't want them washing their linen out there. At least the chemistry seems okay. Now, from our side, we want delivery beyond the chemistry.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, because chemistry is one thing, but delivery of services is another. Talk to us, Menda, about harmonizing the land legislations and what we've been able to do so far, from your perspective, and what you think that does, for that.
From my perspective, or from our perspective, as those who seek services, the harmonization has been done up to about 80%. Because the Land Registration Acts are done, the Community Land Act was done, the National Land Commission Act was done. Now, the issue that is pending were the laws that relate to rating and taxation. The ones of Valuation for Rating Act, the Rating Act, those ones have not been harmonized, and those still bring issues. The planning law that was not passed by Parliament still brings problems. That's why the mandate of oversight given to the Commission may not yet be done in a very smooth manner until the Planning Act is passed. Now, beyond the acts, there are regulations that are required to make those acts work efficiently. For instance, the Community Land Act requires regulations that will say how the committee is formed, the gender issues, the terms of the committee, and those are the things that will make the implementation smooth. The National Land Commission Act also requires regulations. The Land Act also requires regulations, so that the things that cannot be defined by statute are finished. And that is something that is slowing the implementation and requires to be fast-tracked, so that the good provisions of the Constitution, the good provisions of the statutes are brought to reality in terms of delivery. Sometimes when duties are not very well defined by regulations, officers will still fight.
Right, regardless of chemistry
Yeah.
at the top. You wanted to add, Madam Pierce? Or? Yeah, because I wanted to just move on very quickly to the gender issue, because that's what Mwenda talked about. And it's great that, the 2010 Constitution enshrines the rights of women to own land, but it's still a costly and complicated process for women, especially those who are living in the rural area. So maybe you could tell us about some of the work that's being done, and whether you're seeing the effect of this on the ground. A lot of this we're seeing even here from the video we just saw. Things are happening online, but for the lady in the rural area, that is something that would be largely inaccessible for them, wouldn't it?
Thank you. And I also want to touch on the question you just asked about the relationship between the ministry and the commission. You see, I work for an organization called Roots Kenya. And what we do in our lifetime is to bridge policy to the practice, ensuring that the women in the communities and the community themselves understand the policy and the legal framework. So you can imagine for us at the time when there was no talking between the National Land Commission and the ministry, we do not know what to say, but I would say this has advanced. On the ground, I think people can see that the ministry and the National Land Commission are working together. I will tell you in the last two years.
In what way specifically?
In the last 2 years,
Yeah.
let me tell you this. In the last 2 years, we've been able to have a meeting with the commissioners and the chairman and the cabinet secretary and the permanent and the PS on the same table, bringing grassroots women from the community to tell what has not been going on. Definitely, and right. Definitely, for the woman at the ground, they don't care about the relationship. What they care is that they access the land. And not just accessing the land, they also are able to control and maintain that land, which is a difficult thing.
It is. So talk to us about how this working chemistry that we're hearing about has now helped that woman in the rural area in terms of acquiring, accessing, and controlling land.
I think we see this as the right environment for the women to do this. I'll give 2 examples. The ministry gave the opportunity for the country to form the land control boards. And because of that, and since we work with grassroots women, we were able to mobilize grassroots women who we have trained over years to be part of these land control boards. So I would say for a fact that the 30% of the women that are sitting in this land control board, they are not going there as flower girls. They are going there with substance. They understand the legal framework. They understand the Constitution. They know what they are bringing. And I think that for us was very, very important to get the right environment. But there are also gaps, because when women went out there to apply to become members of the land control board, the first thing they were asked, you show that you own land in this area. Mm-hmm. And we forget that women in the first place don't have that title to show that they own land. We had to go and lobby a lot. And I can tell you there are many women that would have been functional that were left out. and they could not become members of this land control board because they could not show the county commissioners or the deputy county commissioners that they own land in that particular area. And I think that's a huge gap. The second thing I would say,
Should we start thinking about that requirement, really?
I think we should. And there are some of the things that as we set these parameters of how we should participate in the management of land in this country, we need to think about the already existing gender inequality. That we forget as we set, and we think that everybody has the capacity and has what it takes to participate. The second, I would think the last panel was talking a lot about the public land. And I think we have forgotten who suffers most when public land is grabbed or is taken illegally. It's actually the women who live in poverty, who we call the grassroots women, those in rural areas and those who are in urban slums, because it is there that access the public schools, it's there that access the hospitals, it's there that access those barrier spaces. And when they are grabbed, they don't have them. But what have we done? We have treated these women as beneficiaries of our projects and programs. And we have not seen the role and the contribution they make. So what did we do after the National Land Policy was enacted in 2009? We decided we are not going to wait for the National Land Commission to be set to be able to do an inventory of the public land. We thought the Constitution is very clear about the public participation and the gender equality therein. And so we decided to demonstrate how can the community be in the leadership of developing this public inventory. And we went to Lari Sub-County as a model. I will tell you as we sit, all the public land in Lari Sub-County has been mapped by the grassroots communities, women in leadership.
Right, and that's
as contributors.
As contributors, not just necessarily as beneficiaries.
No.
And that's a good point to just take a pause, and we'll come back to that in terms of just showing leadership, how it can be done. Nick, I want to bring you into this because we've heard complaints even from the private sector as well. Manu Chandari is complaining about just land in this country, and particularly those in the private sector, and how you're able to know and navigate. And we'll come to Madam PS in a moment to talk about that land valuation index and how that would just, help in terms of moving forward with the projects. But what are your thoughts on that, from that sector?
Thank you. Yes.
All right, so we will be going back there shortly, but before then, we want to bring up you up to speed with a number of things. And that, of course, is the State House Land Summit that is taking place there today. And in discussions there was the issue to do with women owning land. And Faith Maura, who's an activist for that, was giving her thoughts on it.